Do cheaper entry-level Chromebooks need to feel cheap in 2024? What's inside this box, for good or bad, may help answer that. You may have seen from X that I went ahead and ordered what I believe was the cheapest new 2024 Chromebook during Amazon Prime Day. It's what we've got here, the new 2024 HP 14, a 14-inch entry-level clamshell Chromebook. I talked about the new Chromebooks HP was launching this year back in my video from the Google event from the Chromebook Showcase in May, and I've been keen to get my hands on some of them, so I've started at the low end. Getting through the box, and it's as expected, the standard 45-watt USB-C charger, the paperwork you're not going to read in a nice envelope, and then of course the Chromebook itself. Outside it's a full plastic build, and when closed I initially quite like the feel of it. On the plus side, it's light, which it should be really. There's no touchscreen or anything much to add weight. It's about 1.33 kg, that's just over 2.93 pound. It's also pretty thin. There's not much going on in terms of ports, but the marketing team seem to disagree. I guess it's all relative. Whether you agree or not, don't forget to give this video a like. Thanks in advance. I said I initially liked the feel from the outside, and that was until, with very little movement, I found this is the second Chromebook this year where I've been able to click the touchpad without opening it. Not some magic trick on my behalf, but sadly the design. It's really little effort and movement from when it's closed, if that makes sense. The weakness and flex is really when it's open in the keyboard deck. Really disappointing. Touring the rest of the Chromebook from the outside, the bottom is pretty minimalistic. There's a grill for the processor, but no fans required in this model. The processor in this one is the 2023 Intel N100, which I know from the Lenovo Flex 3i 12.2 inch performs really nicely with Chrome OS. You may see the N200 as an option as well. In HP spec, as shown on screen now, in this one I'm combining that N100 with 4GB of RAM. Probably still okay for one casual user. There are options for this Chromebook with 8GB of RAM though. Check the video description or see these posts I made on X from a couple of weeks back showing the new 2024 HP Chromebook models and specs. You can see that there's also a Chromebook Plus model with the Core i3-N305 processor in this 14a-nf range, but that looks pretty different from this base model in several ways, so I wouldn't draw any conclusions from this video. On the storage front, some good news. I've got 128GB of storage, not too bad, but I've seen globally, like in the US, there are some models with just 64GB, so again, keep an eye on the exact spec. Chrome OS updates show us lasting through to June 2033, which is decent and makes sense to me based off how I understand the support for the various boards and processors, but this is a Chromebook released in 2024, and the pledge last year from Google was 10 years of updates, so shouldn't this be June 2034? I'll dig into this a bit more. Despite the flex in the keyboard deck when you're at your desk or even on your lap typing, based on my little experience so far, it seems okay. You've got short travel keys and they're pretty clicky. They've crammed a lot into the function key row in the top row here again, which is great on one hand, but they've also done it at the expense of making those keys a bit smaller. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. We've also got the smaller return key, more like the style of a US keyboard, which might be fine if you're used to that. For us Brits, it might take a little bit to adjust your muscle memory. The trackpad is a decent size and firm, a little hollow sounding, but perfectly decent for an entry-level Chromebook. Good to see the speakers up on the keyboard deck too, rather than being underneath the Chromebook. And from a quick bit of listening so far, they're quite loud, and quality for an entry-level Chromebook again seems good enough. The biggest issue that I knew would be facing me, quite literally, with this particular spec when I purchased it, is the display. It's 14 inches, it's TN for a start rather than being the more vibrant IPS option, and sadly it's HD rather than full HD. This has been the norm on smaller budget Chromebooks with 11.6 inch screens, but on a 14 inch display in 2024 so far I'm finding it not great. The native display is 1366 by 768, but you can bump it up to 1518 by 853. If you're not used to better displays, and perhaps for very basic use it may be less of an issue, but it's really hard to justify when there'll almost always be a better option. And again, even in this model range there are options with full HD displays, so please go for those if you're looking to buy here, or at least compare and know what you're getting. Brightness is okay for indoor use at a claimed 250 nits. At the top of the screen there's a privacy slider for the 720p webcam. It's not up to much, but it does the job. I think that's the only resolution available, but again, double check what you see in your region. There's claims of up to 12 hours of battery life, which may actually turn out to be the best aspect of this Chromebook. Maybe that lower res TN screen helps the battery life. You can also charge to 50% of the battery's capacity in about 45 minutes based on the information given. I'd need to get to a full review to let you know how that performs. In the meantime, you should definitely check out and compare it to the Lenovo IdeaPad Slim 3. You can see that on screen now on the video on the left, or if you want to go with the YouTube algorithm's choice, it's picked the video on the right for you.